This video explores one of the most slept on blockchain research papers turned groundbreaking tech upgrades coming to the crypto industry that has huge implications for both proof of work and proof of stake systems. The innovation we will analyze today delivers a blockchain feature that was previously considered impossible for proof of stake distributed ledgers, while being a hallmark of security for proof of work protocols like Bitcoin. The arrival of Ouroboros Genesis represents a significant research and engineering effort that presents a compelling case for why Cardano and its proof-of-stake protocol is at the cutting edge of blockchain technology. Welcome back to Sapien, the channel for in-depth coverage and breakdowns of the most disruptive technology that's challenging the economic, political and social systems of the world. Just before we dive in, this video is brought to you in partnership with the Cardano Fans Stake Pool, who are the creators of the Cardano Blockchain Insights and Cardano dApps analytics platforms. Our collaboration will spearhead a stream of Sapien content to further the reach of Cardano and its impressive technology. So if you find value in the content and want to help support this effort, please consider delegating to the Cardano Stake Pool ticker CRFA. Full details are linked in the video description. The process of academic research, phases of engineering, all the way through to the real-world implementation of a new technology can be a lengthy one. In blockchain, Cardano is evidence that this is the price you have to pay if you intend on delivering a best-in-class system that's able to prove scientifically the claims made about its transformative technology are in fact based in reality. With each iteration of Ouroboros, and as observed in all major upgrades that continue to bring new capabilities or features to the blockchain, Cardano is proving that the peer-reviewed academic approach underpinning all of its blockchain architecture is a winning formula for producing a highly resilient, robust and adaptable system capable of achieving a vision for blockchain that's very much aligned with and evolved from that of Satoshi, the pioneer of this industry. The introduction of Ouroboros Genesis is both a highly anticipated and long overdue upgrade to the proof-of-stake consensus protocol of Cardano. The research paper that underpins this update takes us as far back to 2018, but for a number of reasons, one possibly being market pressure to bring smart contract functionality to the blockchain first, Genesis remains somewhat in the background. However, its first implementation will finally come with the imminent Chang hard fork, Cardano's up-and-coming major governance upgrade. But the importance of Genesis should not be overlooked. It represents an advancement in blockchain that is the culmination of a research path that systematically tackled challenges in proof of stake, beginning with Ouroboros, progressing to Ouroboros Preos, and now reaching Ouroboros Genesis. Genesis fundamentally aims to understand if a proof of stake protocol is able to realize a robust transaction ledger that's significantly more energy efficient and scalable than proof of work without compromising its basic assumptions or security guarantees. So let's break down how Genesis achieves Bitcoin level security by leveraging a formal framework built around dynamic availability and novel chain selection rules. It's been specifically designed to address the costless simulation issue, resolve the bootstrapping problem, and ultimately mitigate the threat of long-range attacks that decentralized proof-of-stake protocols are most susceptible to. No other proof-of-stake blockchain has these capabilities, and it will bring the security guarantees of Cardano's proof-of-stake protocol Ouroboros at least on par with Bitcoin's proof-of-work model. What I gain most from the research surrounding this video is that the evolution of Cardano's Ouroboros represents the advancement of proof-of-stake protocols while acknowledging the fundamental building blocks that provide the security guarantees to a blockchain ledger that Bitcoin has proven with its proof-of-work model. The information presented in this video is further evidence that the innovation behind Cardano's technology and design architecture is both inspired by Bitcoin's proven qualities and equally motivated by its limitations. If the Bitcoin and Cardano subject matter interests you, I highly recommend taking a look at my Cardano for Bitcoiners series, full playlist linked below. So let's begin with the research paper Ouroboros Genesis, titled Composable Proof-of-Stake Blockchains with Dynamic Availability. I've linked it in the description along with other research sources that form the basis of this video. Its introduction makes the following opening statements that are crucial to what we're about to examine today. Proof-of-stake based blockchains aim to overcome scalability, efficiency and composability limitations of the proof-of-work paradigm, which underlines the security of several mainstream cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. We observe that none of the existing proof-of-stake based blockchain protocols can realize the ledger functionality under dynamic availability in the same way that Bitcoin does, using only the information available in the Genesis block. To address this, we propose a new proof-of-stake based protocol, Ouroboros Genesis, that adopts one of the latest cryptographically secure proof-of-stake based blockchain protocols with a novel chain selection rule. This rule enables new or offline parties to safely rejoin and bootstrap their blockchains from the Genesis block without any trusted advice such as checkpoints or assumptions regarding past availability. We say that such a blockchain protocol can bootstrap from Genesis. This is a critical factor when assessing the security guarantees a consensus protocol can deliver. I think this statement is rather telling and says a lot about IOG's approach to developing Cardano. The motivation for the research, observation made about Bitcoin, and solution proposed here demonstrates a willingness to learn and evolve from the foundation Bitcoin has delivered through a rigorous approach to blockchain development. The research was led by Professor Agalos, IOHK Chief Scientist. Ouroboros was peer-reviewed by the leading cryptography conference, Crypto 2017, and Ouroboros Preus, Cardano's current implementation of the family of protocols, was presented at sister event Eurocrypt in 2018. This groundbreaking research continues to be progressively implemented into Cardano's core technology. Filmed back in 2018 at the IOHK Blockchain Technology Lab at the University of Edinburgh, Professor Agalos explains the research. I've linked this excellent presentation in the description. But let's unpack Genesis to build a stronger understanding of its motivation, innovation, and impact on the blockchain world. Integral to this research is dynamic availability. In blockchain, this refers to the capability of a system to maintain and adjust its operational availability and performance in real time or near real time in response to varying conditions such as network demand, node availability, and resource constraints. This concept is crucial for ensuring that blockchain networks remain resilient, scalable, and efficient under fluctuating circumstances. You want this type of setting in a decentralized protocol as it creates an environment where nodes can join and leave the network at will. This number of nodes should be able to dynamically change over time, or may even lose clock synchronization or their network connection altogether. This capability enables a system to remain accessible and usable even as conditions change, as opposed to becoming unavailable or unreliable. For Bitcoin, the use of proof of work provides a high level of security through cryptographic hash functions and enables a decentralized network structure that allows for dynamic availability. So dynamic availability in the context of Bitcoin refers to the ability for nodes to join or leave the network in a flexible, constantly changing manner without disrupting the overall functioning or security of the network. This is made possible due to the ability of the network to dynamically adjust its computing power to maintain a consistent and stable level of security despite changes in the number of participating nodes and their computing power. As more participants join the Bitcoin network and add computational power, the difficulty of these mathematical problems increases and vice versa, ensuring that the network remains highly secure and resilient against malicious actors. As a result, the Bitcoin network's dynamic availability means it can adapt to changing conditions and maintain its security and stability over time. Proof-of-stake protocols, on the other hand, can restrict the dynamic availability of participants when compared to proof-of-work-based systems and lead to attack vectors that we will discuss shortly. So the problem is clear. While proof-of-stake offers clear energy efficiency and scalability advantages, none of the proof-of-stake blockchain systems have the ability to provide dynamic availability while guaranteeing the security of its ledger to the degree of Bitcoin and proof-of-work. This is crucial to the research behind Ouroboros Genesis. So why is dynamic availability at the crux of this issue? As nodes join or rejoin a blockchain network, they're most vulnerable to attacks. So while you want dynamic availability for reasons I just mentioned, you also need an effective security model to protect it. In Bitcoin's dynamically available environment, nodes use what is known as the longest chain rule, which is a fundamental concept in blockchain consensus. This rule states that the chain with the most accumulated proof of work is considered the valid one. However, in proof-of-stake systems, the longest chain rule is not sufficient to avoid certain attacks, such as long-range attacks. This is due to factors surrounding the accumulation of stake versus work. Proof-of-stake uses virtual resources in stake held instead of physical resources of hashing power to secure and extend the blockchain. So in proof of work, the longest chain is the one with the most computational work behind it, making it difficult and extremely costly for an attacker to rewrite history without redoing the work for every block. In proof of stake, consensus is based on the amount of stake held by validators rather than computational work. An attacker could potentially create an alternative chain with minimal resource expenditure and present a significant vulnerability to the network. A long-range attack occurs when an attacker creates a fork starting from an early block, potentially the Genesis block. Over time, this alternative chain could grow as long as the legitimate chain because in proof of stake, an attacker doesn't need ongoing resources like in proof of work. The problem arises because in proof of stake, there is no significant cost to building a new chain from an old checkpoint. If the network simply followed the longest chain rule, it could lead to nodes accepting the attacker's chain as valid, leading to a successful takeover and execution of a long-range attack. When analysing the innovation that is Ouroboros Genesis, it's important to understand the background and key motivation for this protocol, which really helps to put its significance into perspective. Contrary to the common misconception that Cardano's slow, steady approach to blockchain development is both unnecessary and even overkill, it actually stems from an unrelenting desire to solve major problems that continue to face the blockchain industry. The emergence of Bitcoin undoubtedly solved the problem of producing a robust transaction ledger utilizing a proof-of-work consensus algorithm to secure it. Through the decentralization of mining, the economic incentives built into its proof-of-work system, and the immense computational power securing the network, Bitcoin is able to maintain close to a 50% honest majority. This combination makes it extremely difficult and unprofitable for an entity to act maliciously, thus ensuring that the majority of the network remains honest. The first formal definition of a robust transaction ledger was formulated in research conducted back in 2014, also linked in the description, which set out a specific model and objective that a ledger protocol should meet. The Bitcoin protocol was the foundation and inspiration for defining this problem, laying the groundwork for evolving secure blockchain consensus protocols. But although Bitcoin achieved this remarkable feat, with it came trade-offs, namely scalability, energy efficiency, and composability issues. So naturally, the question presented itself: are we able to realize a robust transaction ledger that's significantly more energy efficient and scalable without compromising its basic assumptions or security guarantees? Despite what you may hear from the Bitcoin community in the present day, proof of stake was very much considered and openly discussed as a possible alternative to proof of work early on in the Bitcoin forum. This demonstrates a time where Bitcoin as a community seemed more open and willing to evolve. It also evidences that, at the time, the community forming around Bitcoin even acknowledged its limitations in using the proof-of-work model and were in search for solutions for blockchain technology to evolve. In using analysis and research directly from the Bitcoin implementation, the framework already existed to enable researchers and engineers to build a proof-of-stake blockchain while incorporating, or at least thinking in the same way that Bitcoin worked, under a dynamic availability setting, but instead utilize a proof-of-stake mechanism that doesn't jeopardize any security features that a proof-of-work protocol provides. While the theory behind this is extremely forward-thinking, it's certainly not an easy feat to achieve in practice. This is where the controversy surrounding proof-of-stake and negative narratives towards its design outcomes really began. As a result, an early folklore idea emerged from discussions amongst many working in the Bitcoin space that proof-of-stake blockchains are fundamentally impossible to work, focusing on its main deficiencies, that being the costless simulation vulnerability or nothing at stake problem, where it was implied that in the absence of proof of work, with no physical resource, means it's possible to build an alternative transaction history at no extra cost. This means an adversary has nothing at stake and would be capable of advancing multiple executions of the protocol until it finds one that is most favourable, with little to no risk of economic loss. As highlighted, in proof of stake, this could lead to long-range attacks where the victim node joining or rejoining the network has to distinguish between two alternative histories of the chain without any recent information. This is what presents what is known as the bootstrapping problem and poses the question how to synchronize a new or desynchronized node to the right blockchain without any recent information. This is where bootstrapping from the Genesis block comes into play. As discussed, the proof of work approach enables a new node or party to choose the longer chain, as the adversarial chain will be substantially shorter. The honest chain will be longer and represents that the majority of hashing power is with the honest majority, not adversarial chain. With respect to dynamic availability, while a node is at its most vulnerable when rejoining the network after a period offline or joining for the first time altogether, the research behind Genesis set out to understand how proof of work and proof of stake systems compare and how a proof of stake system could be developed to enable secure bootstrapping from Genesis in a dynamic availability environment. In proof of work, to prevent long-range attacks, nodes follow the longest chain rule. This is sufficient and can simply connect to the chain from Genesis that has the highest difficulty or largest number of blocks. The honest blockchain is identifiable this way. In proof of stake, things are not this simple. Longest chain rule can be used to avoid short-range attacks, but is insufficient to thwart long-range attacks, as bootstrapping requires additional advice, which is not ideal for delivering a secure and decentralized environment. This was the motivation for Ouroboros Genesis, to understand if a proof-of-stake blockchain can work natively in the same dynamic availability setting as Bitcoin. Are you able to deliver similar security guarantees of a blockchain ledger as seen in the proof-of-work model, but in a proof-of-stake protocol in order to benefit from its energy efficiency and scalability characteristics? Now, it's important to consider that Ouroboros was fundamentally designed together with a formal proof that it realizes the functionality of a robust distributed transaction ledger. This proof involves properties that are assured with Bitcoin proof-of-work analysis. These are the properties that previous work that we outlined earlier has identified as the important building blocks for arguing security of blockchain protocols. So this really points to the attention to detail IOG have placed in addressing this problem. It also points to Cardano's alignment to Bitcoin when it comes to fundamental aspects of the blockchain's security. Rather than disregarding it, many aspects of Bitcoin's model has been embraced in this research and forms integral parts of the evolution of Cardano. Ouroboros Genesis ultimately asks how we can show that the protocol eventually converges to a single history. For short-range attacks, nodes simply follow the longest chain rule similar to Bitcoin. However, for long-range attacks, Ouroboros Genesis introduces a new chain selection rule called the plenitude rule to enable nodes to safely pick the right or honest chain, which fundamentally solves the bootstrapping problem. With Genesis, nodes can securely go offline for extended periods or join the network for the first time and can synchronize downloading the right blockchain without relying on predefined checkpoints. For the first time, new users joining the blockchain can bootstrap from the Genesis block and do not need a checkpoint block or any prior knowledge of the number of users active in the system. This feature was previously not possible in proof-of-stake distributed ledgers, while it was a hallmark of proof-of-work protocols. This means that Ouroboros can now match the security guarantees of proof-of-work protocols like Bitcoin in a way that was previously thought infeasible. If a fork is to occur recently due to a short-range attack or some kind of disagreement between nodes produced naturally, then the longest chain rule will apply. If the fork is larger, the plenitude rule is utilized. This novel rule looks at the point in which the chains diverged or forked. Shortly thereafter, a certain region of blocks is isolated. This segment of blocks is then assessed, and of this isolated region determines which of the two chains is denser. The party or node will follow the chain that is denser in the same time domain, despite the fact that the chain could have a multitude number of blocks later on. This rule enhances the longest chain rule in a way that's easy to program but highly effective. Due to the plenitude rule, nodes that are new to the network or have been offline for a while can rejoin and be guaranteed to download the correct version of the chain as long as there are enough honest parties securing the network. This solves the bootstrapping problem and helps prevent long-range attacks. Furthermore, the plenitude rule makes it possible to guarantee that no one can counterfeit their way into creating a block during someone else's slot, making it impossible for a single node to create a fake chain. What has been proven in the protocol Genesis is that if the majority of nodes follow the protocol, meaning there is an honest majority securing the network, then at any sufficiently long time segment, the corresponding chain will always be denser, especially after the occurrence of a fork. It proves adversarial blockchains, shortly after the divergence point, will always exhibit a less dense block distribution. This is the biggest advancement or breakthrough that Ouroboros Genesis offers. For the first time, we can say a proof-of-stake blockchain can operate in the same dynamic availability setting that we know proof-of-work blockchains like Bitcoin to operate. The security of the protocol has been analysed with a rigorous scientific method utilising formal security proofs and using a martingale-based approach to demonstrate resistance to adversaries controlling less than 50% of the stake. The research extends beyond previous proof-of-stake protocols by introducing dynamic availability and provable long-range attack resistance. Ouroboros Genesis is proven to be secure against such adversaries, ensuring that even if they engage in sophisticated attacks such as long-range attacks or chain reorganization, the protocol maintains its security properties. This matches the security threshold of Bitcoin, where an adversary would need to control more than 50% of the hashing power to compromise the network. The research behind Genesis was conducted by a team from several prestigious institutions. It involved professors and researchers from the University of Edinburgh, the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and IOHK. These teams collectively worked in cryptography, distributed systems, and blockchain security to develop a protocol that can scale securely without trusted checkpoints and is widely considered a significant advancement in the field. Ouroboros Genesis presents a compelling argument to why proof-of-stake is the right approach to maintain a blockchain ledger, as opposed to models that require physical resources like proof-of-work, as it removes critical vulnerabilities that were previously thought of as unavoidable characteristics with proof-of-stake consensus. If you're able to meet the same level of security of the ledger, but benefit from the clear energy efficiency and scalability features associated with proof of stake, it's difficult not to see which model is more favorable for future-proofing a system. For Cardano and the blockchain industry, the Ouroboros Genesis protocol represents a major milestone in its evolution. For the first time, we have a proof-of-stake protocol that is mathematically proven to guarantee persistence and liveness in both synchronous and semi-synchronous settings under the assumption of an honest majority participating, just like Bitcoin. As a result of this factor, Ouroboros Genesis makes Cardano more secure than any other proof-of-stake protocols that require at least 2/3 honest participants like Ethereum Casper or Algorand, and is equally secure as Bitcoin, while maintaining a much lower energy expenditure and superior scalability performance. From my understanding, with the upcoming Chang hard fork, there will be an initial minimum version of Genesis implemented. It will then continue to iterate based on performance through multiple stages thereafter. The introduction of Genesis also points to IOG's continued efforts in decentralizing the development of the blockchain's roadmap. In this instance, collaborating with Twig, an independent Cardano development team, across the past several months to implement and test it. The hype surrounding the Chang hard fork has been largely focused around governance and the enhanced Plutus capabilities coming with this upgrade, and for good reason. However, I thought this video could serve as a reminder that the research and engineering effort in terms of Genesis, that's over 6 years in the making, is about to come to fruition, again placing Cardano at the forefront of blockchain technology. The innovation of Ouroboros already separates Cardano from the rest of the proof-of-stake protocols in the industry. The arrival of Genesis makes this gap significantly larger and arguably surpasses the proof-of-work model for composability, energy efficiency, and scalability, while matching its proven security guarantees. We will be sure to cover Ouroboros Genesis again after its initial implementation and create more content analysing if the academic research and engineering effort translates into the innovative technology that the research suggests. With the track record surrounding Cardano's research approach and development delivery, the real question is, do you still doubt it? Until next time, as always, keep it sapient, keep it blockchain, and most importantly, keep it Cardano.